You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Could your relationships determine your longevity more than your health routine? Find out more in today's episode.
Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast.
Welcome to today's episode. We spend years optimizing our careers, our health routines, and our productivity systems, while our relationships quietly determine whether any of it actually matters. The version of love we learned before we could tie our shoes is still running the show, and most of us never thought to question whether it's the only version available. Eri Kardos is the founder and lead coach of Relearn Love. In addition to being a TEDx speaker, Eri is one of the most highly recommended speakers at top global companies such as Amazon and Microsoft. She works with clients across 6 continents, ranging from top tech executives and Hollywood creatives to everyday people living extraordinary lives. Eri is the author of the best-selling book Relationship Agreements, a simple and effective guide for strengthening communication, reducing conflict, and increasing intimacy to design your ideal relationship. A former leadership development professional at Amazon, Eri's transition into creating Relearn Love began when the executives she supported started trusting her with their most personal challenges. She saw the pattern. When leaders thrive at home, they lead with more focus, clarity, and energy at work. This creates a positive ripple effect across their families, teams, and communities. Since then, tens of thousands across the world have been positively impacted by her work. Eri is the mama of 2 incredible children and shares a powerful, conscious relationship with her husband, Jaymin Patel. They live in Bali, Indonesia, and have a chapter of their own love story featured in Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Miracle of Love. Here is my interview with Eri Kardos. Hi, Eri. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because Relearn Love is such an interesting topic for today, and I believe we have never done an episode on it. So I'm doubly excited that you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, and I am excited that I get to talk about love with you today.
Absolutely. Such a fascinating topic because love, I feel, ripples into all areas of our life. Such an important thing. Would you like to start us off, Eri, with a little bit about your journey or your story, maybe the pieces of it that you feel connect to today, what you do today, and share with our listeners a little bit about what it is that you do today?
Sure. I could probably spend 3 days telling my life story. It's been very weird and wonderful. And in all the twists and turns, I'll say this. I have been a lifelong learner and a huge relationship geek and somebody who's been very interested in how do all the pieces fit. So we have a more holistic sense around our life and around our happiness and around our health. And it turns out that what I've discovered is that love and relationships play such a central role that we can't ignore it. And so for me, it's been a beautiful journey. My parents taught marriage classes in our church growing up. And then I went on to study sexual psychology and eventually found my way with lots of side turns, but eventually found my way into leadership development at Amazon.com, where during that time I got certified as a coach and had this really powerful moment where I was in one of my executives' offices and we were speaking and I could tell something was off. And I said, hey, is there something happening that you're open to sharing? And we had been working together for several months, actually almost a year at that time. And there's this pause. And then he opened up about what was going on at home. And what I learned was there was a lot of loneliness at home. Even though he was married, there's still loneliness. And so I asked consent to start working with him on the bigger picture and working on his home life and his relationship with his partner. And through time, we started watching this huge shift happen. And when things were set at home and there was more connection and love and depth and vulnerability and communication and less conflict, he came to work with more joy and focus and purpose and drive, and it was contagious. So I thought, this is amazing. And I started realizing that more and more of my leaders were having similar troubles, whether they were single or they were in relationships. So we started coaching the whole person and watching entire teams shift. I'm like, this is so cool. I would love to be able to influence the bedroom first to have an impact on the boardroom. And that seems way more fun to me. So I decided to quit my job at Amazon, write a best-selling book, start traveling the world, teaching. And I've been coaching executives and thought leaders and actors and normal people living extraordinary lives for the past decade plus. And I freaking love it.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And it just makes me realize so much more that we can't really, I want to say, just categorize things that are happening with ourselves. Our personal experiences, of course, affect our work experience, affect how we show up in the world. They ripple into, I want to also say, our finances, our health, everything, because love connects all of that. So share a little bit with us how that is that love connects these pieces, because a lot of times people, and maybe our listeners as well, look at love as something intimate. It's a piece between a husband and a wife, or a wife and a wife, or a husband and a husband, but nothing outside of that's love. So how do you actually define this love that you're talking about? And how does that plug into all of the different pieces in our lives?
Juicy question. Let me begin with this idea that I think you touched on it perfectly. So many people have a very narrow definition of what love is or could be. And I want to challenge that. So I believe that we all learned a version of love when we were children. Before the age of 7, we had it ingrained in our nervous system that love is, and then insert whatever was modeled for you by your parents and caregivers. And it probably wasn't the healthiest, probably wasn't perfect. I'm sure they did the best they could with the tools they had, but we have better tools now. So when we're looking at love, I want to stretch everyone's possibility to just expand it. Imagine that love is this thing that is dancing between all of us, that is connecting all of us, that goes towards self-love. How do you care about yourself? How do you speak to yourself every day? How do you get clear on your own healthy boundaries and communicate those with compassion? How do you love maybe your children if you have children? How do you love your significant other if you're in a relationship? How do you call in love if you want to have a partnership? What about love of your pets or your community? All of these are different relationships, and they all have a huge impact on how we show up and how we move through the world. There have been some really cool studies to look at what is the number one factor for a long, healthy, happy life, for longevity. And it is the relationships that you have. So if you can look at the quality of your relationships and expand this to mean how you love people, how you give and receive love, we're looking at your long-term health and happiness. And I love this phrase. Like, I remember when I was really starting to look at what is the depth of love if we could really expand it. And I had a business coach challenge me and say, what if money is love? I was like, whoa. And how do we share love in that way and stop confining ourselves to this idea that it's power, or that it's power over someone or power over us? And what if we could learn to give and receive love and money in abundance more freely? What would that mean for us? And then I had another coach. This is a funny one. She asked me when I was doing a lot of work around what is my relationship with finances, because it's all connected, right? She said, if money were your lover, would it want to make love to you right now? And I just had to pause and reflect. It just hit me in the gut. I was like, no, I like bad mouth her when she's away. And then as soon as she arrives, I get rid of her. So I had to really look at what is what is love? And if love is everywhere, if love is in how we care for our mental health, our physical health, those around us, how we handle finances, how we show up in the world, then love is the heartbeat of it all. And I think that if we can shift our perspective here, we're going to be much happier as a society.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I love that story that you just told about our relationship with money, because I think for a lot of us, there's a big aha moment here. And I've never thought about relationship and money in that same sentence. So, yeah.
I have a dare for you. I have a double dare, or invitation if you want it softer. An invitation from me means homework. So if anybody's listening in, this is your homework, especially if you have any sticky points around money. I invite you to take yourself on a finances date. Like really, like intimately get to know your finances. And for me, that means once a month or more, I will get all dressed up. I'll wear a nice dress. I'll put on the makeup. I'll block time for a date on the calendar, and I'll make my favorite foods and drinks, and I'll sit down and share a date with my finances. And I will get deep into what are the numbers, what's happening, so that I know it intimately, and I can stop holding all these stories around what is money and really begin to be open and grateful for all that I get to give and all that I get to receive. And it has shifted so much in my calmness and my chill around like how I stress around finances or not, and how I welcome abundance. And again, if I know we're taking this side road of like love, money can be love, but really it can change your life. So take yourself on a money date.
Oh, I love that. What a unique idea. So listeners, there you go. This is your invitation. Plan your date and do this once a month.
Best points if you send Petra a picture.
Yes. Share this with us. Let us know. And I do think we're very afraid of things that are uncertain or unknown. So taking that time and actually getting to know, this could apply not just to our finances, but also I want to say our partners, friends, or anyone else. If we take the time to really get to know them, that changes things, I think, on many levels. Now, when we talk about love in all of these different places in our lives, I'm getting the sense that there are some stumbling blocks, maybe some challenges for people when it comes to love in different places. For example, self-love, right? This can be a very challenging thing for very many people, as it's often tied to self-worth or being kind to ourselves, or appreciating ourselves, or thinking that we are worthy of receiving insert blank, whatever is out there. Same with our partners, our children, our parents. We can have very challenging relationships there at work, and our health and finances, as we just said. So what are some of the challenges that you have seen in your work and maybe in your own life that really challenge people to maybe see love as something really complex, scary, or something they don't even want to approach because it doesn't make them feel good? What are some of these challenges that people start off with?
Yes, I would be super curious for people to just leave a comment of what are your biggest challenges. But I think we all get stuck somewhere around the idea of love and relationships. So many people walk on eggshells in relationships. And I think there's two main types of personalities when it comes to like when people feel trauma or feel triggered or overwhelmed. And turns out that deep, meaningful relationships will bring those out in us. They will bring out the triggers, whether it's our parents or our partner or our kids. Like we are going to feel it. And when we feel those, most people either get really big, they get really grandiose to protect themselves, or they get really small and they pull back to protect themselves. And learning how to stay with yourself and love yourself in that place without growing too big or getting too small is huge. And then learning what are these trauma responses you're experiencing? Everyone has trauma responses. It's okay. It's common. But just understanding that when we feel a similar sense of overwhelm that we did as children before we had autonomy, it really brings out these memories, these very old memories that will cause us to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Fawning is like fixing or people pleasing. So what we want to do is have compassion for ourselves in that place and learn skills that will help us move through those. We want to learn how to regulate our nervous system. We want to learn how to love on ourselves. We want to learn how to communicate in a way where the person with us can really hear us. And we want to learn how to listen so we can hear their side. Most of the time, like 99% of conflict, maybe 100%, 99% of conflict that I have been exposed to seems to really be around how people are actually not feeling valid and don't feel like their emotions are valid. So when these big emotions come up, people look at the situation, they focus on the situation, trying to solve for it, when the actual solution is turning to what is the underlying trigger, that sense that's within you from long ago, and helping that little version of you feel safe and let your emotions be okay and let them move through you so they don't get stuck. And after that has happened for each of you, because chances are if you're triggered, your partner is also going to be triggered. then we can decide, oh, how does that feel once it's okay? Like, then we have the capacity to problem solve the situation. But most people go straight for the situation, right? It's like, you left the coffee cup in the sink and you promised not to. And now we're both triggered because whatever the story is, I was busy. Why are you always pressuring me? And, it's never good enough and all this stuff. And you're never there when you say you will be, whatever their stories are. Right? The triggers are there. And we try to make it about the coffee cup when it's actually about much older things before your partner was there. And when we can have compassion for that, I think so much of the world's challenges would be eradicated. And that sounds pretty radical, I think, but really they would be taken care of because we would have so much capacity to breathe and exhale and create our own safety and feel like it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting what you're describing there, because I'm just visualizing in my head exactly how conflict kind of gets started and perpetuated in many of situations in my life. And it's exactly as you said, right? We become triggered by old patterns, by old stress responses, maybe even subconsciously a lot of things trigger without our awareness. And all of a sudden it all comes up in various little things. And we don't really get a user manual when we enter into relationships, whether this is with children, with our spouses, partners, in work. We don't really get a manual. And also in school, we don't get taught about how to hold a relationship, how to hold our own capacity. What are some of the things that our listeners could maybe start with to start learning about this or start exploring this? Because I feel this is something we can learn and evolve into. Where do you usually start with your clients or with yourself? What are some of the first steps that you would recommend somebody take when they want to explore maybe being more present in relationships, opening up to love, being able to hold conflict, any of those little pieces? Where do you start?
I love it. I'm going to take a route that is really fun. So if you're ready for this, if you want to play along right now, then grab a piece of paper, ideally big printer piece of paper, but I will tell you what to do. And then you can go back and listen to this again later on if you can't do it in this moment. So one of the big things I would start with is love is not like a qualitative subject anymore. It is, but it's also a quantitative subject. We have so much data. We have so much science behind it. And sometimes people get overwhelmed because they don't think you can learn something. They think you should just know it. And it would be great if we had learned it in a really in grade school, like you mentioned, or had it perfectly modeled for us, but we didn't. Most of us didn't. So we get to learn it now. And it doesn't have to be like emotionally grinding all the time. We can have fun with this. We can be like children and we can want to go out and learn and grow and be curious together. So that's where I'm going to invite us to go today, is to be curious and playful with this. I'm going to give you a little homework and then I'm going to give you a story that goes with it that'll hopefully help it land. So the homework is you're going to get 2 pieces of paper, big printing paper out, and some pens or colored pencils, however artistic you want to be. And choose a person that you have a deep relationship with, whether that's a child or your significant other or your best friend. It doesn't matter, or parent, it just doesn't matter. Just choose somebody that you already love. And then you're going to invite them to do this activity. So you're going to write at the top of the paper, I feel seen, heard, and loved when ... And then if you want, you can draw a picture of yourself in the middle. And then all around the open space, you're going to write things that ways that you feel seen, heard, and loved. Think like love languages, okay? So, for example, like they need to be, or if you're familiar with the corporate world, there's going to need to be like SMART goals. They need to be measurable and actionable. And then what we're going to do is we're going to really be clear on what they are, as specific as you can. And some of you are going to be really challenged by this. You're going to think, I don't even know when I feel seen, heard, and loved. And this could be in a romantic partnership. This could be in life in general. And take some time to just realize what that might be. So I'll give you some examples to get your brain started. I feel seen, heard, and loved when we dance in the kitchen, when someone watches my TEDx talk and comments on it, when I get an email from somebody who's read my book, when somebody compliments my hair or my eyes, when somebody buys me or brings me really good coffee or dark chocolate, and when I receive an ear massage. Okay? So now I've got a list. So you're going to make your list, and your person you're doing this with is going to make their list. And then whenever you both are feeling complete, you're going to switch papers, and you're going to actually share what makes you feel seen, heard, and loved. And here's where the real magic can come in, because you're going to take a picture of this. You're going to keep a picture with you, so you always have a cheat sheet on how you can love this other person in a way that's meaningful for them. And then you're going to take your paper and you're going to hang it up on your refrigerator. So now anytime people come in, you're training them for how to love you. I had one person walk in and bring me a cup of coffee once, and I was like, what's this for? I saw it on your refrigerator. I was like, this is awesome. Thank you. And it's a wonderful reminder of how you can love on yourself, right? Like the most important relationship we have begins with us. So guess what? I can dance with myself in the kitchen. I can put on a song I love to move to. I can buy myself an amazing cup of coffee or make myself an amazing cup of coffee. I can just take some time to give myself an ear massage. So many different things that we can do for ourselves, that we don't have to rely on someone else. And it's nice to teach other people how to love us. Okay, so after you've made this list, then you're going to get bonus points for then answering the question, what does it mean to you? So what does each of these things actually mean to you? And I'm going to tell you a little story that hopefully will change your perspective on what you think it means. Okay, you ready? All right. So you heard me say earlier that I feel seen, heard, and loved when I receive an ear massage. Yes? Awesome. I want you to imagine on a scale of 1 to 10, knowing that I feel seen, heard, and loved when I receive an ear massage, I want you to tune in to how willing would you be to give me an ear massage based on only that information and hearing my voice. 1 is I am never touching your ears, Eri. Sorry. And 10 is, oh my gosh, ever since I started listening to this podcast, I've been dreaming about touching your ears. And it can be decimal points. It can be anywhere on the scale for you. Don't worry about it. But 1 is no, 10 is yes, I'm in. All right. So everybody just take a second and think about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how willing would you be to give me an ear massage knowing that I feel seen, heard, and loved? Okay. Do you have your number? You don't have to share it. Don't worry. So now you ask me, but Eri, what does it mean to you to receive an ear massage? And I would say, actually, there was a time when our family was a full-time traveling family with a YouTube channel. And we had 2 children under the age of 2. And we were in a new city or country every 4 to 7 days. It was wild. We were a global nomad thing going on. And during that time, I really lost myself. I was so focused on packing and unpacking and breastfeeding. I don't remember a good portion of that time. And my husband is so sweet. He'll remind me of things that will stick. Oh yeah, I remember there was a red slide in this country. And I'm like, oh yeah. So during that time, I really kind of lost myself in the role of being a mom and a wife and a traveler and a YouTuber and all of that. And it just got confusing. One night we landed in Taiwan. And my husband said, babe, I've got the kids. Why don't you go out in the town? I know how much you love to explore and adventure. And I get pushed back. I'm like, no, I can't go. You need me. The kids need me. And he's like, babe, Taipei awaits. Just go. I got it. So I left. and I got joyfully lost in the city, and I got to try all sorts of new things. I got to sample weird foods. I had snake's venom and chicken's feet and all sorts of things. And I learned that I ate the chicken feet in the wrong way. You don't know when you don't know. And finally, I ended up on this massage table by pure coincidence of this beautiful woman named Ling. Ling looked like she was maybe 40, even though I later learned she was in her 70s. And it also turns out that Ling Ling is really famous and that people will fly in from all over the world to book a minimum of 7 or 8 hours on her massage table, a minimum of 7 or 8 hours. So when you get up off the table, you feel like a whole new being because she's massaged your body back into production. You didn't even know you had these body parts. Like, what? It was incredible. So I did not do 7 or 8 hours. I was able to make it for 5. And I thought, no way am I going to do 5. But it was so incredible and well worth it. And I got off the table and I said, Ling, what is your secret to a long, happy, healthy life? And she just looked at me and smiled. And she said, Eri, that's easy. 20-minute ear massage every day. So now, when I receive an ear massage, I'm not just receiving an ear massage. I am being reminded of the night I found myself again, of the night I came back to me and not just being a mom or just being a wife or just being a traveler. I really found me again, and that self-love and that self-care and the grounding and coming back into wholeness. And so it is so beautiful when someone can show me love in this way because it's so deeply ingrained in me and such a beautiful reminder of my entire nervous system of that night. So knowing now what it means to me to receive an ear massage, I invite you to tune into that question again. On a scale of 1 to 10, how willing would you be to give me an ear massage knowing that I feel seen, heard, and loved? 1 is no. 10 is yes, I'm in. There can be decimal points. And just take a moment and decide what is your second number. Okay? Now, if your number went up at all or was already a 10, I would invite you to just raise your hand out there, or just nod along if you're listening in. Yes. And just notice. And when I ask this to a room full of people attending my workshops or my conferences, I would say on average, somewhere between 90 and 100% will raise their hand. And why is this? Because the first number you chose was based on your life experiences, your projections, your judgments. And the second number was based on understanding and connecting with the person who wants to receive love. So when we walk into a relationship carrying all these stories about, oh, I can't believe they want this from me or want that, or why would they want that? It's like we are shutting down the opportunity to love somebody in a way that will really touch their heart. And we're shutting down the opportunity for us to open ourselves up to love, to giving love. And when we can't tell people about why this is so important to us, it makes it harder to receive and harder for them to give us. So I invite you to be really playful with this and start looking at maybe there's a healthier and more fun way to give and receive love and begin to grow in this area. And it can just begin with this game and these questions and this curiosity of what's really there. So that is my invitation for all of you today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would absolutely give you an ear massage, although no guarantees it'll feel as good as Ling Ling's. I doubt that. But, it's the thought behind it of giving love.
It's the thought that counts. Thank you.
Yeah. But isn't that interesting, right? Our own perspectives and how very often those actually will create some limits and challenges for us that we might not even be aware of, and that we're then also projecting onto other people. And it is one of the fascinating things to me in relationships is that a lot of the times both partners or both people in this relationship aren't even aware of what is happening until you actually sit down and consciously, like you said, maybe do this exercise or speak to each other, start communicating about this, because each of them is so triggered in their own past ways and responses that we're not really aware that's even happening. So thank you for sharing that. And those are some fun ways to actually bring not just even our intimate relationships back to focus, but we can do some of these things for work as well, although it might be a couple of other things in there other than what we would share with our spouses, but there are still ways that we can feel seen and heard and loved at work. And we can even have that on our desk.
Valued. If you want to change to more leadership terms, it's so important. And when you know what especially if you're in management, if you know how to really see your employees and connect with them, the way that people show up is going to shift.
100%. And I'm curious, I want to ask you one last thing before we wrap up, but do you ever find that people have challenges with doing this exercise? I feel that sometimes when I speak to people, and in my own experience as well, when we've experienced maybe a lot of trauma or childhood trauma, a lot of stress, that is actually a really hard question to answer. We may not have thought about what actually makes us, I want to say, happy or feel heard or feel seen or make us feel loved. So do you run into that sometimes, that people have a challenging time?
Every time. I would say every workshop I've ever done, there's somewhere between 5 and 20% of people who really don't even know what to say on this, which is a beautiful thing to recognize. And I just invite you to be really gentle with yourself if you're one of those people. It's okay if you don't know. And how cool is it that you get to be curious about yourself? Because if you don't know, how can other people know? And a great starting point is to look back at, what did you love as a child? What did you love doing as a kid? And then playing with it. So it's like, for me, I loved bubble baths. So let's be curious. Let's go to the store and find the best, most bubblicious bubble soap you can find and pour yourself a bath and do the wild thing. And instead of just having a calm bath, put so many bubbles in and just see what comes up. And if you feel seen and you can bring in some joy and you can maybe have a bubble war with your partner or your kids, then amazing. You found one. Okay, great. And some things will be a hit. Some things will be a miss, and that's okay. And even in the bedroom, I know I work with so many couples who are really challenged because we come in with these preconceived notions of this is what intimacy is supposed to look like or not supposed to look like. And there's so much pressure to perform and pressure to please. And I think so much of the real joy and connection gets lost in all that pressure that we put on ourselves and that society puts on us. And most of us didn't actually learn great intimacy skills either. So then it's okay, what do we do with this? And in that case, it's very similar. But I love working with my clients to create love labs. And I teach them to create a safe space without any pressure on it to please or perform. We're just going to be like kids and curious. And we're going to say, okay, what are we interested in today? Let's play with how we kiss. Like, let's not assume that the way we kiss right now is the best way ever. Let's just see what we're in the mood for. Let's be ridiculous. What would it be like to have a really wet kiss or a really goldfishy kiss or a long kiss or a short one? It's like you get to play with it and have fun and laugh. Laugh, make it messy and awkward, and then find what really works for you. But in that, you're figuring out what works. And that's the joy of it. When you can let yourself have fun, let yourself be curious, and really let go of the judgments and fear of being judged, and just come into love is so much more than we expected, so much more than we let it be. And it will have a huge ripple effect into everything, into your family, into your finances, into your community, into your work, as long as we allow it. I think it will change your life and those around you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. We will leave our listeners with that beautiful vision of some of the things they can try in their own lives and their intimate relationships as well. I do feel that it often becomes this notion that whatever we're experiencing on this hamster wheel or the rat race that we're in, or however we're feeling, is just part of being an adult. And very often we lose that joy, that awe that we had as children, that curiosity of just wanting to try new things. So thank you for sharing that. And such an important part, I think, to bring back into our lives and explore that again. So huge for listeners, scroll back into this episode when you're done listening and do some of the things that Eri talked about and bring those into your own lives and relationships and see what changes, and reach out and let us know. I'm always curious to hear from our listeners to see what is happening after they try out some of these things. So thank you for that.
Me too. Please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you like to share with our listeners how they can reach your area and what kind of programs, services, or resources you have available for them if they've become very curious now and maybe they want to know more about finding out?
Or they're ready for an ear massage, whatever.
Maybe they will actually write you and ask you how they can give you an ear massage. But they're curious about
Bali.
Yeah.
Bali, Indonesia, and we'll talk.
They're curious about connecting with you. How can they do that?
Of course. So you can find me on Instagram at Coach Eri Kardos, or you could just go straight to my website, which is relearnlove.com. I have so many wonderful resources for you out there. I feel very honored to have been doing this work as a huge passion project passion and career for well over a decade now. So you can download my audiobook there, or my book. You can watch my TEDx just by going to YouTube and looking for Eri Kardos TEDx, and it's all about how to turn conflict into connection. You can just message me, and I have we'll put links in the notes here, hopefully. I have a free masterclass. I've got one for singles. I've got one for people in relationship. So you can check them out. And if they resonate with you, wonderful. And if you want to go deeper, you can reach out to me. And there's lots of different group programs and games and all sorts of things that our community does. And then I know some people who are listening are just realizing, I'm stuck on this one thing. And if that's you, I don't believe that everyone needs big coaching programs. I think sometimes just one call can make such a big shift. So if that's you and you're like, I just feel a nudge and I want to hop on a call, message me, put the name of this podcast in there, and I will happily send you a coupon for 50% off a session with me, and we'll just spend time together and get you unstuck. So it's just been such a joy to be here. And I thank you, Petra, so much for having me on. It means a lot. And thank you to everyone who's tuning in to this episode and all the other episodes here. This is such beautiful work and such a gift to the world to have this as a resource. So thank you.
Oh, right back at you. Thank you, Eri. And of course, we will be linking to all of Eri's offerings in the show notes as well. We make sure we put a link in there to the masterclasses, also the book, and we'll link the TED Talk as well. And the offer, if people would like to reach out and have a chat with you. I feel you're right. Sometimes it is just that one session when we're stuck on one particular thing that can be really helpful. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being here today. I've had such a delightful conversation. I feel curious and open to exploring more things now. So
I love it.
For that.
You're welcome.
Truly appreciate you and the work you do. And thanks for sharing that with our listeners today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure today to host Eri. And everyone, take care and be well, and we will hear you next time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.